subscribe and like. And tell your friends about this video. My name is Dr. Thomas Whitaker. I'm 72 years old, and until a few years ago, I was still known around Baltimore General as the Hands. Decades as a trauma surgeon. Built the ER protocol. Taught half the residents who run the damn hospital now. I used to come home covered in blood and pride, knowing I'd pulled another soul back from the brink. Now, I'm in room 409B. A windowless space with peeling beige paint and a call button that rarely gets answered. 3 weeks ago, my daughter Sarah drove me to the hospital after I fell in the kitchen. Nothing major, hip bruised, pride more than anything, but the way she looked at me, like I was glass. She held my hand as they wheeled me in and said, "I'll take care of everything, Dad. Just rest. I'll be back tomorrow." That was 22 days ago. No calls. No visits. Just one voicemail from my son Jason. "Hey Dad, sorry, super hectic with the kids and work. We'll swing by soon. Promise. Soon." The word echoes in the room like a cruel joke. I used to hate silence. Now I live in it. The nurses are kind in the way people are to strangers they don't expect to see again. They call me Mr. Whitaker, not Doctor. I correct them sometimes. They nod and forget the next day. I tried talking to one of the younger nurses, Clara. Told her I was chief of surgery once. She smiled politely, said, "That's nice," and kept adjusting my four. No curiosity. No spark. Just protocol. People think the worst thing about getting old is the body breaking down. They're wrong. The worst part is becoming invisible. You don't vanish all at once, it happens quietly. Like your reflection fading from a mirror. I get my meals on a tray now. No salt. No flavor. No one to eat with. I used to carve Thanksgiving turkeys for 20 people. Now I get excited if the pudding comes with a plastic spoon that isn't cracked. The janitor, Mike, is the only one who talks to me like I'm still here. "You waiting on someone, Doc?" "Yeah," I say. "But I think they forgot the address." He laughs. I try to. At night, I stare at the ceiling tiles and count the seconds between heart monitor beeps. It's not living. It's something else. Sometimes I wonder if I'd be treated differently if I had cancer, or Alzheimer's, or something that made people feel sad instead of awkward. But no, just an old man who fell. No tragedy. No story. Just inconvenience. The nurses whisper things outside my door. I hear them. Family hasn't visited? Not once. Insurance covers him for a few more days. After that, we'll need to talk discharge. I know what that means. State home. A place with screaming and buzzing fluorescent lights and people who smell like loss. I try not to cry. Not out of pride, but because I know no one would see it. What's the point of tears when no one's watching? Funny thing is, I don't feel sad. I feel erased. I used to be a man with purpose. Now I'm a man with a wristband. I gave my life to saving others. And now mine fits in a single drawer next to my socks and false teeth. No pictures. No flowers. Not even a get-well card. I think that's what hurts the most, not the betrayal, but the quiet acceptance of it. I'm not angry. Not yet. But something's shifting. Something inside me is beginning to wake. I don't know what it is. But it isn't weak. I wasn't always this man lying in a bed that smells like antiseptic and bad decisions. Once, I was someone they waited for. Someone who meant home. I remember Sarah as a little girl, maybe 6, waiting by the window every night until my headlights turned into the driveway. She'd run to the door shouting, "Daddy's home," like it was Christmas morning. She'd jump into my arms, press her face into my neck. I can still smell the strawberry shampoo she loved. Jason was my little warrior. Always getting into fights, breaking bones, testing boundaries. I patched him up every time. Once, he dislocated his shoulder playing backyard football. I popped it back in myself before driving him to the hospital. He didn't cry. Just looked at me and said, "You're a badass, Dad." I wore that like a medal. And Julia, my baby girl. She was quiet, gentle, always drawing. I saved all her sketches, boxes of them in the attic. She wanted to go to art school in New York, but it was too expensive. So I sold the boat. The one I'd been saving for retirement. Didn't think twice. I never missed a birthday. Never raised my voice in anger. When their mother died from ovarian cancer, I didn't let them see me break. I cooked every meal for a year, learned how to braid Julia's hair, and held them when they woke up crying. I carried all of us. Alone. And now, this. No visitors. No calls. No check-ins. Nothing but silence. Not even guilt. You'd think that kind of absence would come with some explanation. An awkward apology. A lie, even. But all I get is silence. Maybe they think I'm too old to care. Too numb. Maybe they think I won't remember. But I do. I remember everything. I remember buying Sarah her first car. Taking Jason to football camp in the rain. Flying to New York with Julia for her art exhibit. All the hours. All the sacrifices. Every moment I lived for them. And now, they live without me. I overheard a nurse today say, "It's so sad, how the elderly just get left behind." Another replied, "Some families just can't handle it." Can't handle what? A phone call? A 20-minute visit? I'm not asking to be fed grapes on a golden throne. I just want to feel like I mattered. I tried calling them again. Just once more. Sarah's number, voicemail. Jason's phone rang 3 times, then silence. Julia's line? Disconnected. Disconnected. That word hit harder than I expected. When you've spent your life stitching people back together, you think love works the same way. That it can be mended. Sutured. Held with care. But some things, it turns out, are cut too deep. The nurse brought me my dinner tray and asked, "Is there anything you need?" I looked at her. Really looked. And I said, "No. There's nothing left I need." It was the first true thing I'd said all day. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat upright, staring into the darkness, thinking about how easy it is to disappear when no one's looking for you. But then a thought came to me. Not angry. Not bitter. Just, clear. If they could forget me, I could forget them. Not as punishment. As preservation. Because maybe the only way to survive being erased, is to let go of the people holding the eraser. It happened quietly, like all the important things do. No dramatic music. No shattering of glass. Just a whisper, a shift in the air. That morning, the nurse forgot my name again. Called me Mr. Walker instead of Whitaker. I didn't correct her this time. What was the point? I ate half of my eggs. Lukewarm, rubbery things that reminded me of cafeteria trays and prison food. Then I sat for hours just listening to the hallway, footsteps, phone rings, an old man coughing across the hall, the cartwheels squeaking like mice. Sometime after lunch, I asked to see the hospital social worker. A young woman came in, probably 30, all compassion and clipboard. "Dr. Whitaker, I understand your children haven't been able to visit yet." I raised an eyebrow. Yet. That little word. Always giving people just enough rope to hang their guilt on. I want to know what happens after my coverage ends. She blinked. Probably not used to patients who understand the system better than she does. Well, if your family doesn't intervene, we'll recommend a state care facility. There's one not far from here. Sunrise Meadow. Sunrise Meadow. I know that place. I've been there. Not as a patient, as a doctor. Years ago, one of my old patients was transferred there after losing both legs in a crash. I visited him once. He cried the whole time. Begged me to take him with me. I never went back. You'll have your own room, she added quickly, as if privacy was a luxury worth selling. I thanked her. Politely. Professionally. Then I asked her to leave. When she closed the door, I stood up. My legs trembled a little, but I forced them to hold. There was a mirror on the far wall. The kind that's bolted down so no one can break it. I walked up to it. Looked into it. And for the first time in months, I really saw myself. Thinner. Paler. But still me. Not just a patient. Not just someone waiting to be discarded. I was Thomas Whitaker. I'd cracked open chests. Restarted hearts. Spoken at medical schools. Held dying children and grieving parents. I'd made mistakes, too many to count, but I had never abandoned someone who needed me. And now, the people I raised had left me like a suitcase at an airport terminal. That's when I felt it. Not rage. Not despair. Clarity. They forgot who I am. But I hadn't. That night, I wrote a letter. Then another. Then another. One to Sarah. One to Jason. One to Julia. Each letter was different, because each child broke me in a different way. To Sarah, I wrote about her first piano recital. The way she looked at me after every note. Was that okay, Daddy? She'd whisper. Did I make you proud? You did, I told her. You always did. Until now. To Jason, I wrote about the time he called me at 2 a.m. from jail. I bailed him out without asking why. Just held him afterward and said, "You're better than this." Was I wrong? And to Julia, my quiet artist. I wrote about the night her mother died. How we sat together on the floor, her head on my chest, both of us too tired to cry. You said we'd always have each other, I wrote. Did you mean it? No blame. No threats. Just memory. Memory is the sharpest knife there is. I placed each letter in an envelope, wrote their names on the front, and sealed them. Then I took out my phone, the one Sarah left for me, just in case. I opened my banking app. I still remembered all the passwords. That's when I made the second decision of the day. In the early morning, I called my attorney. Old friend. Loyal. Thomas, he answered. Jesus, I haven't heard your voice in a year. I need to make changes, I said. To everything. Trust. Will. Assets. He paused. Are you sure? This isn't a small shift. I'm done giving things to people who forgot I exist. He said nothing for a while. Okay. Let's do it right. When I hung up, I felt a strange sensation rise in my chest. It wasn't joy. It was control. And after weeks of helplessness, that felt like breathing for the first time. It was early October when she came. I was sitting on the porch with a blanket over my knees, a book in my lap I wasn't reading. The wind was turning colder, sharp with that salty bite that says, "Winter's thinking about you." A car pulled into the gravel driveway. A black SUV. Too clean. Too careful. The door opened, and there she was. Julia. She looked different. Older, thinner, more tired around the eyes. But it was her. The youngest. The quietest. The one I thought might still carry a little of me inside her. She stood there, awkward, one hand still gripping the car door. Like she wasn't sure if she was visiting or trespassing. "Dad," she said. I didn't move. Just looked at her over my glasses. "How did you find me?" "Jason said you used to mention a cottage. On the coast." I guessed. I nodded, but said nothing. The wind rustled the pine trees behind her. "You left the hospital," she said, almost scolding. "I did. Without telling anyone. No one was asking." That hit her. She flinched a little, then closed the car door and stepped forward. "Can I sit?" "There's a chair." She took it slowly, settling beside me. We sat in silence for a while. You could hear the waves, the gulls. The kind of silence that has weight to it. "I read the letter," she said. I kept my eyes on the ocean. "Good." It hurt. Truth does. She rubbed her hands together, like she was cold, or maybe nervous. I saw the ring on her finger. Married. I hadn't even known. I didn't mean for it to go like this. Neither did I. Another silence. This one even heavier. "I was scared," she said. "After Mom died, I didn't know how to be around you. You were so strong. So distant. I was broken. And busy being your father." She nodded. Her eyes welled. "Why didn't you ask for help?" "Because I didn't want to beg my own children to remember I existed." The wind blew hard then. Leaves scattered across the porch. She wrapped her arms around herself. "Jason and Sarah are angry," she said. "About the will. About everything." "They're not angry," I replied. "They're embarrassed." She looked at me sharply. "Embarrassed?" "Because deep down, they know. They know what they did. Or didn't do. And instead of facing it, they blame the man who reminded them." She wiped her cheek with her sleeve. "So this is it? You're done with us?" I turned to her, finally looking her straight in the eyes. "No. I'm not done. I'm different." "What does that mean?" "It means I love you. All of you. But I've stopped waiting to be loved back the way I deserve." Her lip trembled. She looked so much like her mother in that moment it almost undid me. "Is there anything I can do?" she whispered. I reached into the side pocket of my chair and pulled out a folded photo. It was of her, age 7, covered in paint, holding up one of her first drawings. "Emily took that photo. It used to sit on my office desk. Take this," I said. "And remember who you used to be. Then ask yourself if she'd be proud of who you are now." She took it with shaking hands. We sat in silence for a long while after that. When the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting gold over everything, she stood. "Will I see you again?" "That's up to you." She nodded. Walked to the car. Got in. Drove away. No hugs. No promises. No dramatic goodbyes. But something had changed. She looked back once, just before turning onto the main road. That was enough. The morning after Julia's visit, I woke up before sunrise. The sky was still dark enough to feel infinite, the ocean nothing more than a whispering shadow. I made myself a cup of black coffee, real coffee, strong, the kind Emily used to say, could melt a spoon. I sat on the porch and listened to the world waking up. For the first time in months, I felt aware of myself. Solid. Not a ghost in a hospital room or a forgotten name on a clipboard. Just a man with breath in his lungs and time left to use however he chose. I didn't expect more visits. I didn't wait for them. I'd already made peace with the quiet. Peace, that's what I had been missing all along. Not forgiveness. Not reconciliation. Peace. Around noon, the mail truck came. A young man hopped out and handed me a small stack of envelopes. "You're the doctor, right?" he asked. I said. "Well, got something interesting today." It was a letter. From Elijah's mother, the little boy from the hospital library with the red crayon. Inside was a photo of him grinning wide, 2 missing front teeth and a cape around his shoulders. Under the photo she'd written, "Thank you. Because of your donation, Elijah started the new treatment. You gave us more time. You gave him a chance. Sarah Thompson." Funny, I thought. A stranger named Sarah remembered me when my own daughter did not. I hung the photo by the kitchen window. It felt right there. A week later, I received another letter, this time from a medical student in Chicago. "I don't know who you are, but your scholarship is the reason I can stay in school this semester. I want to become a trauma surgeon. I won't waste this chance. Daniel Ruiz." I smiled. A real, full smile. The kind that lifts your whole face. I had given so much of my life to people who forgot me. Now I was giving to people who never would. It wasn't revenge. Not exactly. It was redirection. A reclaiming of my life's energy. A choosing of worth over blood. 3 days after that, I got a message. Not a letter. A voicemail. From Sarah. Her voice was shaky, exhausted, like she'd been crying for hours. "Dad. I heard about the will. I don't understand. Why would you do that? Why would you give everything away? We're your family." I sat down at the table and listened to the rest. "I know we made mistakes. I know we should have visited. But you didn't have to punish us like this." Ah. There it was. Punishment. That word told me everything. They weren't sorry for the absence. They were sorry for the consequences. She kept talking. "Just call me. Please. Tell me what you want from us." What I want? I wanted what every parent wants. To matter. But the difference between my children and those strangers writing to me was simple. One group saw my value only when it was gone. The other saw it immediately. I didn't call her back. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. You cannot teach gratitude to people who only remember you when the will arrives. As winter settled in, I began a new routine. Mornings on the porch. Afternoons writing letters, real letters, to the people whose lives intersected with mine in ways that mattered. Evenings walking along the beach, the cold air biting at my cheeks, reminding me I was still alive. I started journaling again. Something I hadn't done since medical school. I wrote about Emily. About the children. About surgeries I remembered vividly and ones I wish I could forget. About the patients who lived. And the ones who didn't. One night I wrote a line that stopped me. Sometimes family is chosen in reverse, not by who you include, but by who you release. I underlined it twice. Spring approached. The air softened. The ocean warmed. My steps grew steadier. I felt lighter, like someone had slowly removed weights from my shoulders. I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for calls. Not for apologies. Not for anyone to come save me. I saved myself. One evening, I stood at the edge of the water as the sun lowered into the horizon. The waves lapped at my shoes. The sky glowed orange and violet. It was beautiful in that quiet, private way, the kind of beauty you don't take a picture of, because it's meant only for the person standing there. I whispered. "I'm okay, Em." The wind carried it away. But I knew she heard. I turned back toward the little blue house on the coast. My home. My choice. My peace. Behind me was the ocean. Ahead of me, whatever life I still had left. And somewhere far away, my children were reading letters that did what decades of love never could. They made them see me. And that was enough.